Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. It is Friday, it is deadline day. I hope you are all well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Lots going on in the world of football right now. It's like time you take a step away take a step away from a computer. Sorry, I get my words out. Something else happens. Not much yet involving Arsenal, although Nuno Tavares has been confirmed. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. There are things bubbling away, which we will discuss. At the moment, it is all centering around outgoings. At the time of recording this, it's just gone and coming up to 11:30 on Friday. So we've got under 12 hours to go now of the window. And as it stands, nothing, as far as I'm aware, in terms of incomings, but you never know. There's still plenty of time. Something can happen out of the blue. And as I said yesterday, from the messages I was getting, it wasn't a guarantee that nothing was going to happen. It was looking unlikely, but the club were still sort of keeping an eye out or looking or talking to people, trying to work out if there was something that was doable that would work for them and everyone else. So we shall wait and see on that. But we'll get stuck into all of that in today's show as well. Look, I wanted to start first of all by just saying thank you so much to everyone who came down the Tollington last night for the book launch. It was an unbelievable night. I was totally blown away, to be honest. It was really overwhelming, the whole thing. I was worried that people weren't going to show up. And then I sort of walked down there, got in just before 5 o'clock. And it was rammed already, and so many people have bought books already. And I signed them for 4 hours. The Q&A was supposed to start about sort of 7 o'clock with me, Sam, and James. And I think it started about 9 o'clock because that was when I signed the last book. The queue just went on and on and on for 4 hours. And like I said, it was just a pretty crazy night of just meeting so many people and said so many nice things, and who have obviously watched this channel and watched it sort of grow over the years. And some of the stories you're all telling me about how during lockdown, I became a real sort of routine of that sort of part of the crazy time in the world, and I became a routine of you guys watching and getting your Arsenal news. And it honestly it meant an awful lot seeing so many of you down there and so many nice things you said. And I appreciate it. Apologies for the rubbish writing in the book. Handwriting's not my strong point. After 20 years of writing sort of shorthand as a journalist, I seem to have forgotten the ability to write properly. So I hope you didn't look at the messages that I put in and thought, what on earth does that say? But yeah, just look, thank you so much for coming down, and thank you so much for all just taking your time out your day to come down, stand in a queue for so long, and to say so many nice things. So yeah, really touching day. And if you've got the book, if you're reading it now, I really hope you're enjoying it. And if you're thinking about buying it, you can still order it. I'll put the links down below. You can get signed copies still from Goldsborough Books in Covent Garden. You can order from Amazon, all your usual bookstops. And it's in bookstores now as well. Of course, I can actually say that rather than just saying pre-order or something like that. You can actually go into a bookstore and buy it. So please do. But once again, thank you so much for everyone for just being a big part of the night and making it such a special one. Okay, let's talk about Nuno Tavares, shall we? He's gone out the door on loan for the season to Nottingham Forest. That's obviously been in the offing for a fair while now and has been confirmed this morning. Arsenal getting a bit of a loan fee and then an agreement in place for Forest to sign him on a permanent deal for around sort of 12 million next summer. It's not an obligation, it's an option. So it's something will they take up or won't they? We'll have to wait and see how his performances are. I do think there is a player there when it comes to Nuno Tavares. I've said that before. He's a talented player. He's got lots of good attributes that I can imagine are very attractive to clubs. He just needs to sort of cut out some of the stupid stuff. And if he can do that, I think he could be a very good player. So fingers crossed he does well at Forest, and Arsenal end up making a bit of a profit on him next summer. So that's one sort of out the door so far on deadline day. And now we wait to see what happens elsewhere. Rob Holding is expected to go. I'm certainly expecting that to happen. Crystal Palace at the front of the queue now for Rob Holding. He does have other options. He's been speaking to clubs in Spain. I know there was Luton was mentioned, but I don't think there was any truth in that. But it seems like Crystal Palace at the moment are front runners for Rob Holding, and that would be on a permanent deal. So see if they can get that over the line in time. For me, I think it's weird. I'm probably going to contradict myself in a way because I'm going to talk about this after I discuss Sambi Lokonga. But I think it's a good move for Holding. I think, and I've said I think he goes there and improves a lot of Premier League teams. I think he's a good defender that is underappreciated a little bit by sort of big chunks of the Arsenal fan base, and he gets quite a lot of unfair criticism. So I think fair play to him. He's going to get his move, hopefully play regular football, and I do think it'll be a big success there. Sambi Lokonga, Luton believed to be in discussions with him to see if he can get a loan over the line with them. He's got to go somewhere today, do him no good and do Arsenal no good for him to still be at the club. Got 11 o'clock. So wait and see if Luton can get that one over the line. Do you think if you go there, he'll certainly play? It's a Premier League club, and it will get him minutes, and hopefully, and that's what he needs. He just needs minutes. He's too young. He's a good, talented young player. He doesn't need to be sitting around not playing. And if he stays at Arsenal, he's not going to play. That's pretty obvious. So he needs to go out, and a loan move always felt like the likely option this late on in the window, and that appears to be where it's heading. So so we'll see on that. Talking about the transfer window now, and obviously there is still just under 12 hours to go of it at the time of recording this, so things can change, and Arsenal could still bring in someone between now and 11 p.m. But you kind of look at it and think, if they don't, I do feel they are going to be short. They're going to need to be pretty fortunate, I think, injuries-wise, between now and January, to not suffer because of a pretty small squad. You think of Rob Holding, for example. I think he played a lot of games last season. I think he played about 13, 14 Premier League games. He played a lot in the group stages as well of the Europa League. And then Kieran Tierney played like 33 games, I think it was. So although they weren't regulars by any means, they still played a fair amount and played a lot of minutes. And those two aren't there anymore. And obviously Timber came in, but he's injured, so he's unavailable as well. And I kind of look at that and I just think, you know what? They're going to have to be pretty fortunate if they don't bring someone in. It's impossible, I think, to look at that defence, look at the options in that defence. Come 11 p.m. tonight, if Holding goes, I think they've got enough there to be comfortable. In a couple of injuries and they're really in the bare bones. So I think it would be a risk for Arsenal. But we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, still plenty of time left in the day for Arsenal to do something. Something might happen on loan. A player might sort of pop up who they like and think can help, and they could do it. But certainly if I was Mikel Arteta or if I was Edu, and I know what Mikel Arteta will be doing, he'll definitely want some players. But whether the club can get him over the line for him, we shall wait and see. But I do think it's a risk. Let me know what you guys think as well. We'll do a video for tomorrow, sort of looking more in depth, I think, at the transfer window and how Arsenal shaped up at the end of it once we know exactly what's happened on 11 p.m. tonight. And sort of look a little bit more in depth for that. So do give me your thoughts so I can sort of include some of those in that as well. Let me know what you think. Do you think Arsenal have got enough? Do you think they're short? Should they have done more in this window? Should they have kept some players that they've moved on? Anything like that, please do let me know in the comments below. Right, let's talk about the Champions League, shall we? While I was doing the book signing last night, the Champions League draw was all on the big screens around the pub. Everyone was watching it while they were queuing up. There was lots of cheers when the group was coming out. You sort of look at that group, Arsenal, Sevilla, PSV and Lens. That is not the most difficult of groups. I think you would be very, very happy with that. It could have been a lot worse going past Newcastle. It certainly could have been a lot worse than that. It's not easy by any means. Arsenal lost to PSV last season in the Europa League, of course, over in Holland, beat them at home, but lost fairly convincingly in Holland. Sevilla, Europa League winners once again, seasoned European contenders, pushed Manchester City all the way in the Super Cup final just a month ago. So there are no pushovers by any means, but it could have been worse, no doubt about it. And Lens, that'll be a tricky game over in France in a very hostile atmosphere over there. But I don't think Arsenal look at that group and have got anything to fear. So I think it's a pretty, I'm pretty sure Mikel would have been sitting there and Eddie would have been sitting there watching that group and think, yeah, we've been pretty fortunate there. We've got a real good chance of topping that group and going through to the knockout stages and setting us up very well for the knockout stages. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. But we were asked about it in the Q&A, me, Sam and James. And I think Sam sort of mentioned, he described it as almost a bit of a Europa League draw. And I think you can see what he means by that. It does have more of a Europa League feel than it does a Champions League feel. And I think we're all very excited for that big, huge Champions League night at the Emirates, possibly against a Bayern or a Barcelona or something like that. And so we haven't got that in the group stage, but top this group, go into knockouts, and those are certainly going to come further down the line. So although that's slightly disappointing, there's not going to be a massive, really big game against one of the giants early on in the competition. I think Arsenal are in very good shape to get through into those knockout stages and set up one of those games in the knockout rounds. Elsewhere, before I get onto a couple of comments from you guys, brilliant news for Eddie Nketiah. Yesterday, he called up for the England team for the first time, in the England squad for the first time. Really, really good news that Raheem Sterling drops out and Eddie came in. Rich reward for his very good start to the season. He has enjoyed 2 goals, of course, and also played a big part in the win against Crystal Palace as well. And a big day for Charlie Patino as well, who's just been called up to the England under-21s for the first time. So a couple of young Arsenal players getting their recognition for England there, and really fair play. I'm really delighted for Eddie. He's had such a good start to the season. Takes a lot of unfair criticism, I think, Eddie Nketiah. Thought he played very well last season for Arsenal, and he started off in good form again this season. I think he thoroughly deserves that England call-up, and it'd be fantastic if he could get a cap during the upcoming international break. Okay, a couple of questions before I round this one off. A bit of a short episode today. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on, and I need to sort of try and keep on top of it. So a bit of a short one today. But here's one here that says, I'm worried about the depth of our squad, Charles. With UCL and EPL and other cups, we might see a repeat of last season. We need another defender, a top centre-back, and we don't sell Gabriel. Look at how many central defenders City have. We also have need a midfielder in the mould of Gundogan. Then we will be okay until January, and that's when we can sign a striker. Ivan Toney would be perfect. I love the idea of signing Ivan Toney in January. I have to admit, I'm very much behind that idea. I agree. Look, I said it earlier on. I agree. I think I am a bit worried about the depth. Certainly, I think defensively, especially, I'm not too bothered about midfield. I think midfield Arsenal, they've got options there, and I think they're pretty well stocked. But defensively, I think they're short. I think it's very hard to look at the squad if they don't sign anyone between now and 11 p.m. and not think they're a little bit short. So, I agree with you very much. But again, let's wait and see what happens in the next 12 hours or so before we make our final judgment on it all. And here, just finally from James, is hi Charles, the club's done well recently in getting our top talent signed up to new contracts. What's the latest on Odegaard and White, who I think are rumoured to be next in line for renewals? Are there any rumblings about a new deal for Arteta with Ancelotti taking the Brazil squad next year? Rail are bound to be sniffing around. MA, I haven't heard anything on a new deal for Mikel, but I'm sure that's something the club are very aware of and will keep on top of. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he signed his new contract, was it? I'm trying to think when it was. It was end of the previous season, wasn't it? So, he's still got a good amount of time left on his deal, but I imagine the club would be very, they won't want to lose Mikel, and they'll be very, very keen to get his future secured. In terms of Odegaard, I reported probably a couple of weeks ago now that Arsenal are in talks now with Odegaard, trying to get that one done. It's not, it's probably not going to be a quick process. You look at how long it took with Saka and Saliba and Gabriel Martinelli, but Arsenal are in talks with his representatives to try and get that one done. I haven't heard anything on White, but I imagine it's the same. I can't see why they wouldn't be talking at this stage to get him secured, such a key player for them. So, Arsenal, like you said, they've done a great job so far in securing all their top talents, and Odegaard and White are next on the list, and they will be rewarded very soon. I am sure about that. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching again. I do appreciate your time. Was a bit of a shorter one today, but I will be back with a more in-depth look at the transfer window in the next episode. So please do get involved. Send in your questions, your comments, your opinions on what Arsenal have done in this summer window, and I'll some of them tomorrow if I can. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a very good Friday. I will speak to you very, very soon.